Okay, alright, so now I want to pop out chat. Do. Where is it? Here it is. Copy. And then minimize. Here. And properties. About chat. Paste it. Okay. Right. Come on. Why is it not showing? Should be showing up. Start. Okay, let's try that now. Copy, pop out chat. Properties. It is not coming up. I don't know why it's not coming up. It's either not coming up because it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. There's something going on. Nope. That is not helpful. Popped out the chat and it's just not working. I just don't understand why. Okay. We will remove chat window. We'll add chat window. Browser source. Checkbox. Okay, got the checkbox. Take that. Delete that. Paste this. And then 1, 3, 0. It should be showing up. Okay. It's not working. Why is it not working? Okay. Well, there's two ways. I can restore chat, go here, restore, and then start, and then do it. Now we'll see if that works. So only thing I can think of, restore chat. Okay. Alright. Over here. Going here. Hello? Hello? Can you... Is there anything coming through? I don't hear anything at all. That is strange. Okay, let's try. Hello? Hello? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, gain up a bit more. Hello? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hello? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hello? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, if anybody's watching, let me know if the sound is alright. I'm just going to see if I can't import this chat box. I don't know why it won't let me do that, but for some really weird reason, it's not pop out chat. Copy one more time and back here. Just find it. Where are you? Paste it. And I want you to just do it. Just make it happen. Alright. Oh, it's finally worked. So I've got to go live, and then I've got to make sure it's public before the chat box will come up. Now that's good to know. Now I've discovered a new thing. Alright, bear with me. I'm pretty much set up this time. I think I've got most of my bits and pieces sorted out, although I feel like the bottom of that doesn't quite meet. So we'll go back and fix that. Okay. For some reason it's not meeting up. Why is it not meeting up? Oh, I've made it fractionally bigger. And it's not quite meeting up. Okay. Oh, we'll fiddle with that some other time. It's a lot of messing around. And I just want to get on with today. I have some notes. We're going to work through this. I know this is kind of a strange time to be doing this. I'm going to pull out the headphones because that's going to show up. Okay, well, we're going to get on with this. I planned to do this ages ago, and trying to figure out how to make it all work was really hard. It helps me a lot if you tell me if the sound or the video has got any issues with it. If you let me know, then I know how to, well, at least I can have a go at trying to fix it. I can turn the gain up on the microphone if it's not loud enough, and if there's other weird sound coming through, then let me know. In terms of the video, if there are any problems with the video, let me know as well. Put them in the comments. I'm going to do this presentation. I'm going to start very shortly, like in a few minutes or a few seconds probably, and then once I've rattled it out, I'm going to let you ask questions. That's my intention for today. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today we're going to learn how to play Dungeons & Dragons. So if you wanted to know how to play Dungeons & Dragons 5e, this particular workshop is on the Rogue, and it's the Rogue Basics. So I'm essentially using the Rogue from the starter set. So that Dungeons & Dragons starter set, I've actually taken the Rogue, the sheet out of there. It's got 2 pages, a front page and a back page, and we essentially are going to deal with everything on the front page only, nothing more. Now, if you want more information on the Rogue, you can look in the player's handbook, and you'll find that on page 94 through to about 95, 96, and a few other pages after that. And that covers pretty much all the information you need to know on the Rogue specifically. So the Rogue is a highly skilled individual who specializes in stealth, deception, and actually the psychology and behavior of creatures and people. They're very fast, they're quick, and they exploit their foes' weaknesses. They look for vulnerabilities. And I'm going to give you a scene here. I'll just move this out of the way. I'm going to give you a scene of a castle. And our task for today for the rogue is to get into the castle and get back out again. So I was going to use the Cragmore Castle description from the Dungeons and Dragons starter set and decided, well, actually, no, I won't do that. So what I'm going to present you with is this is a 2-level castle, and it has a front door, some steps leading up. There's a smashed door, and there's another door beyond that. The rogue won't necessarily know this, but does know that there are some sections there where there is some rubble. There's some rubble underneath some of the arrow slits. There's a whole section which has been smashed out, the walls have been taken out, and this is the first level. Now there are a couple of things that a rogue can try to do given their skills, and that is the first thing is they can make a perception check to look for danger, to look for patrols, to look for guards, and I would say that's probably the first point of call. So what are we going to do? We're going to grab a 20-sided dice and we're going to make a perception check. So you're rolling that 20-sided dice. I rolled a 19 and we look for our perception score. Now our perception score is on our character sheet and it's a 0. Now I can show you this right now if you like. 0. That's it. Which is a bit weird for a rogue, but in this case we won't worry about it. So 0 plus 19 is a 19. So as the Dungeon Master, you need to decide how hard is the task to actually discover anything in this location. And I would say there's probably going to be patrols going around the castle. And in this case, there is a patrol. And if you stipulate the time that you're going to stake out the location, so 5 or 10 minutes is not very long, but if you say something like half an hour or an hour, then a 19 means something. If you say, I'm going to only look for 5 minutes and you roll a 19 for your perception check, it still equates to very little, unless the guards are literally standing outside the door. In this case, we're going to say there aren't any obvious guards, but there is a patrol that's walking around, and they seem to be rotating around here about every 15 to 20 minutes. So you know that there are guards, and those guards are goblins, little green creatures, very small. So your opportunity here now is to decide, how am I going to get into the castle? Now, if you've got forest and cover, which you'll need, otherwise you'll be discovered pretty much straight away, you can make a stealth check or sneak into the castle looking for that opportune time when the guards aren't around. Now, you've got 2 access points. You've got the stairs and the ruined section over here. And those are probably the best locations. Now, you don't know what's up the stairs, that's the front door, or you can go through this ruined section. I'm going to go with the option of trying to sneak through the ruined section. So we're going to bring our little rogue over here, and they're going to try to sneak up through there, looking for an opportune time when the guards aren't looking. Now, you could make a perception check. Maybe the Dungeon Master asks for a perception check to actually discern the pattern for the patrol of goblins that are moving around this particular location, or you might decide, well, actually that's not really suitable in this location, that particular patrol that's moving around the castle. An insight check. Insight is about discerning the motives, the psychology, how a creature is thinking. So we're going to make a 20-sided dice roll, and we're going to add the insight check for this particular character. Now, the insight on the rogue, on the character sheet, is actually a 0. I'm not even going to bother showing it to you. We just roll a 20-sided dice, and I get a 1. So the rogue doesn't actually really get a good idea of the pattern. And unfortunately, as they're moving up to this particular location, this ruined section, the guards come around this corner and spot our rogue. Okay, the rogue's now been spotted, and obviously the alarm will be thrown up. There'll be an alarm of some kind, somebody will make some noise, and then you're going to have to deal with the repercussions of that. So we've just used a perception check, we've used an insight check. We could have tried to make a stealth check, but I didn't even bother with the stealth check. Now, the reason being is because the insight check wasn't really very good. There's really no point worrying about making that roll unless you actually are successful in a perception check or an insight check to check that there's a patrol that's moving around there that isn't going to spot you. Because although you can be quiet, you still couldn't be seen. So what we'll do is I'll show you how to do a stealth check. Let's say the insight check was successful. Let's say I rolled a 20. And the guards are actually over here. Okay? And our little rogue is moving up, making a stealth check, trying to sneak in, and we'll roll a 20-sided dice, and once we roll our 20-sided dice, I roll 2, and we add our stealth modifier. Now the stealth modifier on this particular character sheet is 7, which is quite high, so I got a 9. That means, provided that my stealth check is higher than the passive perception of our little goblins, we should be able to sneak in. Now, that might work, or it might not. Now, the passive perception of a little goblin is actually pretty low, but a 9's not very high, and unfortunately, it's exactly the same. So the stealth check is 9, and the passive perception of a goblin is 9, and we'll say, okay, look, they were actually over here, so these goblins won't spot him. But if there was like a little goblin in this location here, maybe had their back turned to the halfling, it's going to notice that little halfling moving across that rubble, turn around and spot our rogue. So that's how it essentially works. That's how you would make a stealth check. If I rolled a higher score, so we turn our little goblin around, and I rolled a 19, and I add 7, because our stealth score is a 7. That's the modifier right here. Then I got a 26. Well, 26 is way more than 9, so I don't have to worry too much about how this is going to work out, because I can sneak up on this particular little goblin, and if I want to, I can have a surprise attack. The first round of combat. If there's nobody else in that room and just that one little goblin, I can use what the rogue specializes in, and that is the sneak attack. So I'm going to demonstrate that now. Now, sneak attack is very, very simple. You decide on the weapon. You could use your bow, you could use your short sword. This character uses a bow and a short sword. The modifier for the attack roll is exactly the same, doesn't matter which one it is. The damage is exactly the same, so it's not very complicated at all. So I can take the shot at distance, or I can make the shot a little bit closer, or I can get up and use my short sword. I'm going to go with the short sword rather than shooting with the bow. Now, the only reason you would get to use your sneak attack, there's a couple of provisos with using sneak attack, and that is, one, you have to have advantage on the attack. Now, if you get a surprise attack, this particular goblin doesn't know I'm there. I do. I get a surprise attack, which means I get to go first in the first round of combat. So that means I'm going to get advantage on that attack roll. That gets 2 dice and take the highest result, and I add that to my attack modifier. And I'm going to get to roll an extra dice for my damage, because at level 1, this is a level 1 rogue, you get 1 extra dice worth of damage to attach to whatever you are rolling for your weapon. Now, a little short sword is only a d6, so I'm going to get to roll all these dice with my sneak attack. Okay, so let's look at the highest dice on our d20. I rolled 2 8s, so it's an 8, and I add 8 to 5, which is my attack modifier, which comes to a total of 13. Now, this little rogue, little goblin here, does not have a shield. Now, shielded goblins would have an AC of 15. It doesn't have an AC of 15, it has an AC of 13, which means I actually do manage to get my attack in from behind, and I stab them. Now, how much damage do I do? Well, this is my dice for my short sword. I add 3 because the modifier on this is 3 for my damage. That's because the dexterity on this particular character is quite high. So there's a 3 to add to this. Okay, so I add 3. So 3 plus 3 is 6, plus my sneak attack damage, which comes to 12. 12 is quite a lot of damage. It's going to take down that little goblin. That goblin's going to get skewered from behind. Nice and simple, very easy. So that's how it works. Now, how else can I use my sneak attack? As long as you can't be seen, you can have advantage. So if you are not visible to your attacker, you get advantage on your attacks. If you get a surprise attack, you would have advantage, so you get to use your sneak attack damage. If you have an ally, so if you had somebody else in the party with you who's sneaking in there and they can get within 5 foot of this particular goblin, then you get to actually have your sneak attack damage. You don't get advantage if you don't have surprise or you're not unseen, but as long as there's somebody within 5 foot of that particular little goblin, you get to use your sneak attack damage. That's how sneak attack works. So I want to actually move those dice out of the way, because we're going to role play a little bit more stuff. This is mechanical in nature, and I wanted sort of to go through the very, very basics. So we've covered stealth. We could cover something like athletics. So let's just get rid of Mr. Goblin because he's out of commission. At this point, you've got a choice. You can decide to go through a door here or door here, and this is a good time to yet again make a perception check, to listen at the door, or check for traps. Maybe the door might be trapped. So you take your 20-sided dice, and as I said before, the perception modifier for this particular character is 0. So it's a flat roll. So we're going to move up to this door, and we're going to listen. Okay, so I got a 14. 14 plus 0 is 14, and DM will then tell you whether you hear anything. And you hear voices behind the door. They don't know necessarily what's behind the door, so you have a choice. You can decide to try to move through the door. There's no traps as far as you can tell, or you could decide to move away from this and go over here to this door and listen at this door. Make another perception check. So I rolled a 19 plus 0 for my perception modifier, which is 19. That's how much my perception check is. Okay, so this time you're listening at the door and you don't hear anything. You hear like a little clinking noise. You don't hear voices, but you hear clinking. So you have a choice. You can go through the door or you can bug out. This is sort of your opportunity to decide what is the most sensible thing to do. The rogue could just leave and go around the back here, and hopefully that patrol won't spot them. But this rogue is going to decide, okay, there's no traps as far as I can tell. The DM said nothing about there being a trap, so I'm going to just move through that particular door. So I open the door, find inside that there is like a chain hanging from the ceiling, and it's just clanking against the wall. So that's what that noise was all about. This is a storage room. There's a couple of barrels, there's some crates, there's a fireplace. And yeah, nothing else. So you can then move around to the next door. Now you might ask, or the dungeon master might ask for some sort of stealth check as they're moving through that location. So you would keep making stealth checks. Now because you aren't necessarily visible and you're in a castle with really heavy walls, this is like a situation where essentially you might not necessarily be discovered very easily, so you might get advantage on those stealth checks. The dungeon master might say no, it's a flat roll, or in this case, I'm a nice dungeon master, I'm going to say you get advantage because you've got big heavy stone walls to protect you from the noise coming through. But the doors are wooden, so that's a little bit different. So I'm going to make a stealth check. Okay, so with advantage, I take the highest result of my 20-sided dice, which was a 14, and it's a 14 and a 12, so I take the 14. I add my 7 for my stealth modifier, which comes to a grand total of 21. That should be more than enough to keep myself undetected. Now when I get to this door and I listen again, and I can make another perception check, which I'm not going to bother doing because I figure at this point that this rogue probably understands that this door leads into essentially potentially the same room as the other one. It might not necessarily be the case, but no, there's a lot more noise behind that door. Not even going to require a check at this particular time. Not everything requires a check, only if there's a chance of failure. The noise coming through this door is very, very loud. So, you know that there's something going on in there. Now, this is an opportunity for you to decide, okay, well, I can open the door and just walk in, or I can do something else. Now, this is a rogue. Rogues are really good at talking their way out of things. Also, they're really good at deceiving other creatures. So I'm going to have this rogue try to disguise themselves as a goblin or some other little creature. So he goes around, he looks through the storage room, looks for something that might sort of help him. Maybe he's got some green paint, smears some green paint on himself. Or maybe he just decides to just rough himself up and just look like, you know, he's there, supposed to be there. And he's going to sort of fake his way through whatever encounter he has to deal with inside here, because he wants to know what's going on in here. He just doesn't want to have to fight it if there's too many. The one little goblin was nice and easy, but if there's more than one goblin, then it's not going to be a very good situation for him. So he roughs himself up a little bit, makes it look like maybe he's supposed to be here. Maybe he puts some green paint on himself, and you roll a deception check. Now, a deception check essentially is your attempt to disguise yourself. The deception modifier for the rogue is 5. So I roll a 20-sided dice and I add that. So I got a 7 plus I'm going to add my deception modifier, which is 5. So that's a 12. 7 plus 5 is 12. Okay, so that's not too bad, but it's going to be dependent on what the little goblins roll in terms of an insight check when I go through the door, if there are goblins or some other creature there. So he goes up the door, opens the door, and as it happens, there are some goblins in here. There's quite a few, in fact. There's one right here. It looks like he's got like a strange wand with magical power coming out of it. Another one who's sort of chatting over here. I'll put 2 more in here because I feel like this is a room that should have quite a few. And now this particular rogue has got to make some decisions. Presents himself, says, trouble outside. And if you don't know Goblin, you're going to have to speak in common. Halfling's not going to be any good to you, so speaking in common would be a good idea. The problem is, goblins can speak common, but they also speak Goblin, and usually when they start communicating with each other, I would imagine they would normally speak in Goblin. So it's probably going to be a problem for this particular rogue. So disadvantage would have been the best thing for the disguise check, but we're going to give advantage to the goblins in this case, because it's going to be pretty easy to spot this particular ruse. An insight check is usually going to be measured by a wisdom check. Wisdom is -1 for our goblin, so we're going to roll this. Take the highest result, which was an 8. I've got a 5 and an 8. Take the 8, take away -1, which is 7. So they actually believe it. It passes off. It's close enough that they actually sort of believe this particular rogue is a goblin. Cool. So you've just deceived them. You now know that there are 4 little goblins sitting in here. One there's a magic user, and so yeah, you have an opportunity to try and explore the rest of the location, or you can take this opportunity to leave. So as I've said, we have covered lots of different skills. We've covered deception. You could also decide to engage in a conversation, or maybe you decide to move up and provided nobody's looking, you might try to pinch something off one of the goblins. Going to be really difficult. There's 4 goblins in the room. So a sleight of hand check to try and take something off them, like a bunch of keys that you can see hanging from a belt, might be extremely difficult to do. So if you were to do that, I would say it's either going to be automatic failure as the Dungeon Master or disadvantage. You'd have to find a point when they are moving away from each other where you can actually do this. So I'm not going to make the check because I'm going to say it's just simply too difficult in this situation. But normally what we would do is we would roll some dice, either 1 dice for a straight roll, or 2 dice for disadvantage if it's a really difficult situation, or 2 dice with and have advantage, and then we just add our sleight of hand modifier, which is +5. We're not going to do that in this situation. We're just going to move on. I'm going to do something else instead. One of the things you've got to remember too is with something like a rogue, they have a thing called Thieves' Cant, and this is basically a secret mixture of dialect, jargon, and code that they can speak. Now, it's not going to be any use to the rogue in this situation, but you could use it if you were trying to communicate with somebody else secretly without giving away information to somebody else who's in the same room. Thieves' Cant. We've covered the sneak attack. Expertise. Now, with expertise, you get proficiency. Your proficiency is actually doubled. Now, your proficiency bonus for a level 1 character is 2, so it would go to 4, and you get to apply that to either 2 skills or 1 skill, and your expertise with thieves' tools. So your ability to disable a trap, pick a lock, things like that. I'm not going to go through that today because I've actually presented you with an awful lot of information, and I was actually going to give you more information, but I think we're running along now. I'm going to stop so you can ask some questions, and yeah, then we'll move on from there. So if you found this video helpful or informative, please share, like, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I do videos every day. I'm going to do more of these videos. And if you want to support my channel, watching the videos is great. I really find that helpful, but there's usually an affiliate link in the description where you can buy stuff online. You actually pay absolutely, it's no extra to you, but I get a small commission. In fact, you don't even have to buy the thing that I've linked to. You can go to that link, go somewhere else, buy something, and I will get a small commission. That's how it works. And that supports my channel so I can do more of these videos. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments once this goes up and is published. But I'm going to stop very shortly so you can ask me during the live stream a few questions about the whole situation, and we'll play some stuff out for you. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, all right, that is our presentation. I will hang around for a few minutes. We're into 31 minutes now. So I'll say between, 5 and 10 minutes. We'll see how many questions come my way. If there aren't any questions, then we'll pack it up for today and I'm done. I have to say that doing a live stream how to play Dungeons and Dragons is, I'm glad I brought some notes. It's very, very nerve-wracking. And I actually had more to present today. I actually had 2 pages worth of information. I've gone through maybe 1 page with this whole thing. I could have covered things like using the intimidation skill, we did a deception check. I could have used perception, persuasion, sorry. Acrobatics, athletics, things that rogues do really well. Investigation, we could have done an investigation check to investigate a location if we found something interesting, or try to find something interesting. Dexterity checks can be made for trying to pick a lock, or disable a trap. So, as I said, if you have proficiency that's doubled in your thieves' tools, then you would get, that plus your dexterity modifier. Dexterity modifier for a rogue, well, this particular rogue is a 3, and if it's double your proficiency, that means when you're using your thieves' tools, you're potentially going to get a 7. You can see here, only one of the skills is actually bumped up to 7. All the rest that are trained in are actually 5. So that means essentially what you've got here is a situation where stealth has been selected, but you can use proficiency with your tool. You are good at using your tools. No questions so far. Give you guys a little bit longer to ask any questions you might have. And then, yeah, we'll shut this down and I'll move on. I'm hoping this sort of thing will get better over time. It actually took me a long time to figure out how to actually set this all up. Trying to narrow in my camera on the map was one of the hardest bits. Apparently I can't save the settings on my machine, and as a result of that I have to set it up every single time, and then I've got to line everything up. And then I didn't realize that the chat window, which I wanted to have presented to you so you could actually chat with me if you wanted to, and will also come up during the live stream when it's published. So I wanted it to be visible, and apparently I have to go public before I can actually load it in, which means there's always going to be just a little bit of messing around at the very beginning of the video. So what's going to happen with this video is essentially I'm going to cut it down. At some point I will edit this video down, and it'll be, I'll chop off the front bit, I'll chop off the back end, and you'll just get the tight trimmed down version of this particular workshop, essentially. Yeah. No questions on the rogue so far. I must have covered pretty much everything everybody wanted to know, which is good. I had a whole bunch of goblins in here. If I had my little rogue continue to explore the location, there were going to be more goblins in different locations. Okay, so we're down to 1. It looks like we are finished for today. I've probably done this way too early. There's probably hardly anybody awake. But my first try at live streaming how to play Dungeons and Dragons. So yeah, yeah. Unless there's any questions, I'm going to head off, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream, which I imagine will probably be. It might be tomorrow. It might be the day after. I don't know. It just depends. I'm hoping that if people give me feedback on whether they like this sort of thing, I'll know whether I need to do more of them. And I'll probably do them with the other classes. It won't be just the rogue. I'll do the fighter, I'll do the wizard, I'll do the sorcerer. We'll cover the sorcerer as well. We'll cover things like your warlock, your barbarian, your bard, your druid, all the characters, all the classes that you wanted to sort of use, and some of the newer classes that are available that have been released. Although I wouldn't say they're classes, they're more like archetypes or subclasses. How's it going? Hopefully I got that correct. You'd like a warlock one? Okay. A warlock is actually, you know, if you're going to play a caster, a warlock's actually reasonably simple at level 1. My players have never liked warlocks because they don't seem to be able to hold up over time. The invocations are supposed to be what sort of makes them useful. I find most of my players will multi-class once they get a few levels in warlock, but I can definitely do a level 1 warlock how to play video at some point. Just give me a little bit of time to put some notes together and come up with something. Won't be today obviously because I need to have a little bit of time to research. But I'm glad somebody's actually responded. For a second there I thought I was alone. So tell me, was it useful to you? Was the sound coming through all right? If there's anything that I needed to change, just let me know. Okay, cool. So yeah, you can expect a warlock how to play video live stream probably in the next. It'll probably be in the next week to 2 weeks, because I intend to do far more of these. I know my channel is built essentially on showing people how to play the game, and I've always wanted to try and do it live stream rather than pre-record everything. It's always very time consuming, and I don't necessarily know exactly what people want to ask me, and it winds up being dealt with in the comments. The sound's good? Okay, cool. Oh, what is my GMT? Okay, so I'm in New Zealand, so that's New Zealand Standard Time, which means right now it is 10:24 AM. So that's almost 10:30 AM in the morning in New Zealand. Now, I don't necessarily intend to run all of my live stream how to play videos at that time. This one just happened to get scheduled at this time. Okay, so I will probably for the next week or so try to hit them in the morning early-ish so that I can get them out of the way before people get up. You might have noticed somebody's got up and, you know, boiled the kettle, and there's people roaming around, and I need to sort of pack things up, otherwise it's going to get a bit awkward. So essentially, yeah, that's my plan. I won't be able to give you exact timing for now, but I will also probably run these workshops that I've done before. I'll repeat them. So just because I did this workshop at this time, I'll go over Rogue Basics again later on at a different time on a different day. Yeah, I understand you want to log into the proper time next time. So yeah, I would say try to aim for roughly about 9 o'clock, 9 AM in the morning, 9:30, around that time. I'll be online for the mornings for at least a week. And like I said, you know, if I do a Warlock Basics, I will do them not just in the morning. I'll do some of them in the afternoon, probably in a couple of weeks when there's less people roaming around the house. Okay, all right. Well, look, it's hitting almost 40 minutes, and I need to sort of pack things up, which means I need to go and trim this thing down and do all the tidying up that needs to be done. And yeah, hopefully I'll keep doing this for a little while in the morning, and then after that we maybe get afternoon videos in a couple of weeks, or maybe I'll do two a day And if I can get them done quickly enough, that's the key thing, is trying to get them done fast. Ah, how's it going? Mestasina. I always have trouble pronouncing your name, Mestasina. You've snuck in. Yes, you did. Our halfling didn't do a very good job of sneaking into the castle. We had to reset it, I think, at least once, maybe twice. Yeah, you'll see the video later. I'm going to sign off now, and I'll go and trim it down, and yeah, we'll be back. There'll be more of these coming, and as I said, there'll be probably different time slots. They won't be all at the same time. Okay, I'm going to sign off, and I'll let you guys have a good day.